Laurel Charboneau is a local business owner, an online entrepreneur, armchair historian, and the author of Historic Petersburg. A drive through town in 2023 made her realize that Petersburg is a city with historic neighborhoods that have almost no explanation as to what makes one different than the other. Published by Arcadia Books, Historic Petersburg answers that question. Using rarely seen vintage images, it breaks Petersburg's 12 historic districts into a pictorial timeline, giving a history of the city and the stories behind the most visible historic structures. Laurel is here
I didn't even use ChatGPT to write it.
She has her books for sale in the back, along with some pictures, and this promises to be very interesting. So I present to you Laurel Charboneau.
Being here, I appreciate it. Okay, Petersburg has a very complex and rich history. There's 12 historic neighborhoods, and each one of them has its own special story. So this is going to be a very brief overview of what makes one neighborhood different from the next, and in some cases, what makes one street different from the next. Okay, so once we get our visual going, we'll be able to start. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, is this better? Okay, let me repeat myself then. So Petersburg, it has a very complex and rich history.
Good, go ahead, continue.
Oh, okay. Okay, there's 12 historic neighborhoods, and each one of them has its own story to tell. So this is going to be a very brief overview of what makes each neighborhood, and in some cases, each street different from the next. Okay, and I hope that you enjoy. Okay, so Petersburg is one of the few places that still operates off of its original grid that was set back in the 1700s. A lot of the neighborhoods, the street names, and the streets itself has not changed since their inception. Okay, there we go. Okay, so this is Pocahontas Island. In early 1749, a man named Richard Whitten, he owned a lot on the banks of the Appomattox. He called it Whittington. Anita, honey, we might need to move you up a little closer.
I might have to come all the way up on the stage. Whoops, hang on, let me go back one. Voila.
Okay, so he called it Whittington. He divided that area into 67 1/2-acre lots, and he sold them. In the year of 1759, the House of Burgess had renamed the area Pocahontas, and in 1795, he was advertising the lots there as a retreat away from the city. Soon after that, Pocahontas became an area where both free men and women were able to work and live without interference from whites. By 1830, there were 310 free blacks that owned property in Petersburg, and the majority of them were right there on Pocahontas. Okay, by the year of 1860, the population of Pocahontas was 510. 395 of those were free blacks, and 119 of them were whites. More than twice of the population of free blacks in Petersburg at that point were living on Pocahontas and thriving there. It was a booming community. They had a variety of different businesses that were in operation. In 1851, the Richmond-Petersburg Railroad, they built a rail bridge and a depot on Pocahontas. That, along with the sympathetic people in Petersburg, allowed access to the river and transportation, which made Pocahontas more than plausible to be a stop on the Underground Railroad. There's a house on the corner of Whitten Street. Its number is 2013 to 2015. That's been called the Underground Railroad House since 1838. In 1860, at the time of the Civil War, the road to the Pocahontas Depot and Pocahontas Island itself was used by our Confederate troops and the Union troops both. It was a part of the defensive lines. After the Civil War's end, the road to the Pocahontas Depot was used as an evacuation route, and after the war, newly freed came to the area in such large numbers that the Pocahontas actually became overcrowded. By the turn of the 20th century, Pocahontas was a thriving community. Oh, they had fuel holding tanks, they had a lumber yard, and there were wineries. At the start of the Second World War, at the start of the First World War, in neighboring Hopewell, the Hercules gunpowder plant opened. That offered more employment opportunities. A lot of people at that point moved from Pocahontas to Hopewell. And from that point going forward, Pocahontas, while it still remained a thriving community, sadly the businesses dropped off. By 2015, there were no businesses left. It's 100% residential, and it's been on the endangered neighborhood list since then. Oh, there you go. One more. Okay. Okay, Old Town. Okay, in 1622, Old Town, it stretches from current day 3rd Street all the way to Fleet Street. This is the oldest section of Petersburg. This is where you can find homes and businesses that were built in the 1700s. In 1622, an English exploration party discovered that this was a good area to start a settlement. By the 1630s, that settlement was established on the banks of the Appomattox, and in 1644, after a series of attacks by the indigenous people, Fort Henry was built. That was established as the frontier boundary. Okay, hold on. Okay, and whoa, where am I? Okay, next to there's a bridge in Old Town, and next to that bridge is an empty lot. That empty lot was a deepwater harbor. That deepwater harbor.
I think that's the one back, right?
Oh, I don't know.
Right there?
No, go forward, honey. Go forward. Okay, one more. Okay, one more. One more. I got ahead of you. Okay, there we go. So this is the harbor in 1903. This harbor was deep enough for ocean-going vessels. In 1730, one of the town's founders, a man named Robert Bowling, he built a warehouse on the banks of the Appomattox River. In the year of 1748, the House of Burgess ordered a bridge built. This bridge was the only bridge that spanned the Appomattox for 30 miles. This was the beginning of Petersburg becoming the largest and most prosperous city in the Virginia colony. So prosperous that after the malicious defeat in the American Revolution, the city was able to rebound, and in the year of 1830, the first set of railroad tracks leading into Weldon, North Carolina was laid here. Petersburg became a business and a retail epicenter, with the population tripling in almost a 100-year time frame.
Is that go again?
Okay, this is the Revolutionary War map.
Go forward.
Okay, this is Southside Depot, so this was the first railroad depot in Petersburg.
Go back one because I think it ran over one.
Where are you at, honey?
That's going backwards.
Okay, go forward, honey. Go forward, honey.
One more.
One more.
Really slow.
Okay. Okay, the Exchange Building. The Exchange Building was built in, okay, I lost myself. I'm sorry. Okay, the Exchange Building was built in the 1840s. That was built in order to regulate the crops, especially tobacco, that was coming in and out of Petersburg.
What's the magic word?
Okay, there we go. The Civil War came in, and Petersburg was the site of the longest siege on American soil during the Civil War. In Old Town, we had the harbor. We also had the railroad and the gas works, which made it a strategic defense point. The battles were intense. The majority of the buildings were destroyed. But after the war, Old Town was able to rebound with a rebuilding boom and financial prosperity that lasted until the mid-1970s.
Those old cars.
In 1923, there was a remodel of Old Town where the streets were repaved or paved in concrete, and all of the buildings were given facelifts to a new Art Deco style. Forward. Okay, this is Bolingbroke Street in 1932. So Old Town, believe it or not, was a mixture of both residential and business in that time frame. Okay, we were also the largest producer of peanuts and tobacco. Okay, Old Town was built on the shores of the river. The shores of the Appomattox River is very rocky and the current is very strong, which was perfect for powering mills. However, it was also extremely difficult for the boats to get down. In 1795, there was a canal that was built. And that was West Petersburg, and this is the Pride's Field area. So Pride's Field is West Petersburg. It goes along the banks of the river, it goes up to Commerce Street, and it goes all the way to the Battersea Villa. This is where most of the mills and most of the production in Petersburg was located in those days. In the year of 1745, a man named William Pride bought a land parcel to the west of Petersburg. He built a dam, he built a mill, and in 1766, his son built a tavern, which acted as a coach house. He also built a horse racing track. The horse racing track was closed in the 1700s, but the tavern was still standing and in use until 1938. It burned down shortly after this picture was taken. Okay. Okay, John Bannister, we're missing a photograph here, but John Bannister was a member of the House of Burgesses. He was also a member of the Continental Congress. He built his home on the banks of the river. It's called Battersea Villa. He also had a mill that was built in 1795. Now, as I had mentioned, that section of the Appomattox River is shallow, it's rocky, and the strong current. So in 1795, a canal was dug to allow goods to be shipped from Petersburg. It extended all the way up into Richmond and further into Farmsville. By the 1820s, Canal Street was called the Street of Mills, with the homes of the owners were built within walking distance. Now this actually extends beyond the city limits, and this was a very prosperous area. During the Civil War, the mills suffered massive damage. There was actually a pontoon bridge that was built on the shores of the river. It was used by Confederate troops to aid in the evacuation after the April 3rd of 1865. Okay. During Reconstruction, many of the warehouses were built, and in the 1880s, the Petersburg baseball field was opened on Mackenzie Street. This was the main baseball field in Petersburg until the 1950s, when it moved to neighboring Colonial Heights. It was very common for the mill workers to compete with each other. Okay. In the 1870s, the Petersburg Bag and Trunk Company was opened on South Appomattox Street. This was the first of many luggage manufacturers, and it quickly became one of our largest industries. In 1908, the canal was purchased by the Seaboard Railroad Lines. It was filled in, and the Pridesfield neighborhood became primarily residential. There's Commerce Street. It's hard to believe it, but at one time there was a canal on Commerce Street and a railroad track. So the canal was replaced by railroad tracks. They ran down Commerce Street. In 1922, there were 2 businesses on that street. By 1931, there were 13 plus a rail station. Okay, this is Appomattox Street in the 1960s. Okay, There were 4 companies on that street. The main ones were Titmus Optical. Okay, this is Titmus in the 1920s. Okay, and the products that they produced, they became the largest manufacturer of ophthalmic lenses in the world. Okay, Southern Chemical was also located there, along with long luggage, and the Watson and McGill Tobacco Warehouse. There were other manufacturers in between them, including the Simmons Mattress Company. They had a system of loading their goods onto this train that was so synchronized that Petersburg was actually included in the 1939 in the Virginia exhibition at the 1939 World's Fair, and again in the 1958 Best Cities to Do Business in promotion. Okay. In 1971, the railroad track was torn down. All the businesses on Commerce Street had been closed by the early 2000s. Okay, the Follies Castle Historic District. In 1763, Peter Jones V, he was the grandson of one of our town founders. He built a home on the outskirts of the city. This would be present-day Washington Street. This home was so large that the townspeople said that it was nothing but a folly for a childless couple to build such an extravagant home. That home is still standing today, and there's an entire neighborhood, an entire historic district that's centered around it. By the mid-1800s, some of the city's most affluent members of society lived on this block, along with the neighboring streets of Hinton and Perry. In 1858, the McIlvaine House was built. In 1971, this house was torn down. It was moved to downtown Petersburg. It's currently a bed and breakfast. It has some of the most significant woodwork in the state of Virginia is located in that house. Okay. The first school, one of the first public schools in Virginia was located next to it. That was called the Anderson Academy. The Petersburg Public High School was built on its footstep. That is now the Governor's School. Okay. There were also tobacco stemmeries and warehouses in that neighborhood. During the Civil War, those warehouses were used as hospitals and prisons. North of current-day West Street was farmland. After the war, the streets of Jones, Pines, South, and Guarantee became part of a Reconstruction-era African-American neighborhood that held both single and multiple family dwellings. Okay. Oh, did we go forward or did we go backwards?
Oh, that was the
Okay.
one.
Okay. In the 1920s, this was also prior to that. This was where the city stables were. So this is where the horses that hauled the fire engines and the police wagons lived. That was turned into the fairgrounds after that, and now it is the city fuel holding tanks. Okay, this is Guarantee Street. And this is the corner of Southwest and Dunlop. Believe it or not, those signs are still standing, still right there to this day. You can look and it's exactly the same. Okay, this area has basically remained unchanged. Okay. Okay, keep on. Yep, next one. Okay, the Courthouse Historic District. So, this is where North Adams and Bank to North Market Street, Sycamore, and Washington. Petersburg's first courthouse was on current day Tabb Street. It was called Spring Hill. In 1838, construction began on the current courthouse. In 1841, gas lights were installed downtown. And in 1858, there was running water installed. Doing business in Old Town Petersburg was nothing but a pleasure. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Okay, the shops on Sycamore Street were so impressive that during the Civil War, this whole area was practically destroyed. But within a time frame, the city was up and booming, and it stayed that way. People came from surrounding cities to shop here until 1968, when Walnut Hill opened, along with the new plazas around it. This is the corner of Sycamore and Washington Street. This is current-day Cool Beans. In the 100 years ago, it was the E.R. Beckwith Pharmacy, and in between then, it was the Roses Pharmacy. Okay, the Chas Leonard Hardware Store on Bank Street was the largest hardware store in the South. They manufactured dead shot gunpowder, and they were the sole manufacturer of the Hal brand scale. Okay, this is St. Paul's Church after the Civil War. So during the war, the steeples of the churches, along with the top of the courthouse, were used by Union troops as sites. And this is the destruction. While the areas around the churches were bombed out, some of them actually stayed in place. They were used as shelters for the people who lived there. Okay. 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 Now, current day, the area has seen better days, but the remnants of prosperity are still visible. Many of the original buildings still have their architectural features. They have their large display windows, terrazzo tiles with the old shop names, along with in the year 1960, March of 1960, a group of students, keep going. Oh, there we go. Okay, so in March of 1960, a group of students from Virginia State University and Peabody High School met at McClellan's, Kresge's, and Woolworth's. They sat down at the lunch counters. They ordered meals. They were denied service. They were told to leave. They didn't. And that began the civil rights movement in Petersburg. So throughout the summer of 1960, there were marches all throughout the city. Okay. 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 In November 1960, Petersburg was the first city in Virginia to desegregate all of its public buildings. Okay. The Center Hill Historic District. So Robert Bolin was one of Petersburg's founders. 1730, he had built the first tobacco warehouse. He owned all of the land from the river all the way up to current-day Walnut Hill in just one straight path. In 1784, he developed a 40-acre portion of that land. That includes current-day Bolingbroke Street. That includes Washington Street, Sycamore Street. He also had 3 large plots to the south. East Hill was his family home. That was where current-day Madison Street is. Okay, during the American Revolution, the General William Phillips used East Hill as his headquarters. That was torn down in the late 1950s. He had a son. His son was named George Bolin. George Bolin lived in West Hill. West Hill was where the current-day public courthouse is. So the Hustings Courthouse is here, and the city and family courts is right there. That is where this stood. George Bolin was married to the daughter of, one of Thomas Jefferson's sisters. Thomas Jefferson had visited that house. Across the street from that was the West Hill Tobacco Warehouse. That is where the current parking lot is. They were both torn down in the 1940s. Okay. Okay, in between them was Center Hill. So in 1812, Center Hill was just a hill. The troops that left to go fight in the War of 1812, that's where they departed from. In 1823, he built his new home, which is Center Hill. In 1839, Robert Bolin died, and he willed that property to his son Robert Buckner Bowling. He remodeled the mansion to what we see today. He also developed North Jefferson, Franklin, and East Washington streets. During the Civil War, the mansion was the home, or was the headquarters of the Union General Harfstead. After the war, it was sold to a man named Charles Hall Davis. He modernized the mansion, but sadly he had, oh, that's Robert Bowling. That's Robert Buckner Bowling.
Okay, go another way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, Charles Hall Davis was an attorney. In the early 1900s, President Taft came to visit, and he was at Center Hill. He made a speech, and then he went to visited the monument, that's the Pennsylvania Monument in Walnut Hill. In the 19-teens, Charles Hall Davis had some financial issues. Center Hill was sold. The area around it was developed. Center Hill Mansion was left standing as lot number 1 in the Center Hill neighborhood. Okay, where are we at now? Okay, this is the Atlantic Coastline District. So the Atlantic Coastline District is basically 2 buildings. This would be the Brown and Williamson and the Cameron buildings. In 1858, William Cameron invented a tobacco press. Okay, the tobacco press revolutionized the industry, and it made Cameron Tobacco one of the largest exporters of twist and pull leaf tobacco in the world. Okay, in 1903, the Atlantic Coastline built a new passenger and freight terminal on Washington Street. Until the 1970s, there was a train track where between Wythe, Union, and Adams Street. These tobacco warehouses were 2 of the city's largest employers. Okay. Okay, that's the 1903 concept sketch. Okay, that is the rail terminal. Or that was the passenger, and that's the passenger terminal. Rail terminal was destroyed in the 1940s. That was what was built in its place, and that was standing until the early 1970s. In 1971, that was torn down. The railroad tracks were removed. In 1984, Brown and Williamson left Petersburg, causing an economic downturn that was felt for almost 40 years after the fact. And that is what Petersburg looked like when Brown and Williamson was there. Okay, the Halifax Historic Triangle. In 1759, on property that was owned by Robert Bowling on current-day Harrison Street, was the African Church. A group of free blacks known as the New Lights began worshiping there. Oh, hold on. Okay, one more. Okay, somehow I got out of order. Okay, oh, no, back to. Yeah, back to. It should be a very old-looking building. Okay, take that back. Okay, so it's there. It's there, my apologies. The old African church is there. It's just not in its order. Oh, in 1819, a church on Pocahontas Island. They purchased a lot in the area known as Gillfield. They built a church on Perry Street, and an African-American neighborhood grew around it. That is Gillfield, current-day Gillfield Baptist Church. Okay. Prior to the Civil War, this area was home to multiple tobacco processors and warehouses. After the war, these businesses began offering equal employment opportunities to the newly freed. Okay, that is Gill Street. Yeah, that is Gill Street. Okay, multiple churches and the neighborhood grew around them. Halifax Street, it was the main street leading into Petersburg from North Carolina. By the 19-teens, there were numerous black-owned businesses located here, as was the city scale. Whoa, okay, totally out of order. Yeah, click on.
Okay.
I don't know what happened.
All right. So you want to
Yeah, click on, click on forward.
All right.
Okay, there we go. Okay. Okay, the corner of Harrison College and South, they were the home of 2 jazz-era nightclubs, both of which were open throughout the 1980s. This is the corner of Halifax and Market Street. This is that was the Newmarket Lunch Counter. In the late 1950s, friend of pastors Milton Reed and Wyatt T. Walker, Martin Luther King Jr., visited Petersburg. And what he found there was, was a segregated city that had 6 black churches within 2 blocks of each other, and a population that was almost 70% black, the majority of whom were not voting. So this was the field where the seeds of the civil rights movement were sown. In the spring of summer of 1960, the Petersburg Improvement Association organized sit-ins and marches throughout the city protesting segregation. These activities were primarily in the Halifax Triangle, the Poplar Lawn, and the Courthouse Historic Districts. In November of 1960s, Petersburg was one of the first cities to desegregate all its public buildings. And this is Washington Street. In the back corner was the department store, W.T. Grant's, which was highlighted in a 1960 issue of Life magazine because of the sit-ins that were occurring there. Okay, this is Dorothy Cotton and Virginia Thornton. They were organizers of the civil rights movement, and this is a civil rights training session that they held. Okay, is it, okay. Oh, okay. This is the corner of Washington and Adams Street in 1955. Okay, the Trailways bus station was also the site of civil rights activities. In June of 1960, there were 65 people arrested there, and in August the 15th of 1960, that Trailway station was the very first bus station in America to desegregate its lunch counters. Okay, South Market Street Historic District. Okay, with the South Market Street Historic District, that is the area leading from the Petersburg Public Library to Halifax Street. In the 1850s, this street, this was where the most prosperous people in Petersburg built their homes. They actually called this the Fifth Avenue of Petersburg. These homes were rival to those in New York City. Absolutely beautiful.
What street is that again?
This is South Market Street. Okay, okay. Now this is where I've made my mistake. If we go back 4 or 5 slides.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. What you looking for?
Okay, keep on going. Keep on going.
So,
Okay, keep on going. Keep on going.
lunch counter.
There we go. Stop right there. Okay, so during the Civil War, on South Market Street, the homes were so beautiful that this is where the Union and the Confederate generals had their headquarters. In April of 1864, President Lincoln went to that house right there. That's the Wallace House. It's on the corner of Market and Halifax. That is where he went to discuss leniency for the South after the end of the war. Okay, okay, yep, go back right there where we came from. Now, in the 1950s and 1960s, this area is right next to the Atlantic coastline. It's right across the street from where Brown and Williamson was located. Brown and Williamson actually purchased almost every home on the west side of Market Street, tore down the houses, and made room for their production facilities. Okay.
Same neighborhood.
Yep, same neighborhood.
And Poplar Lawn.
Okay, the Poplar Lawn Historic District. So Poplar Lawn Historic District. This reaches from South Adams to Halifax to Shore Street. It crosses Sycamore and it goes to St. Andrews. In the 1700s, all this was farmland. In 1750, oh, that's the old African church. Okay, it just popped up. This is one of the bleed over neighborhoods. So Poplar Lawn, Harrison Street is part of the Poplar Lawn Historic District. It is also part of the Halifax Triangle. And this was the old African church. Okay, so in 1752, a man named Robert Ravenscroft, he owned farmland, which is the current day streets of Liberty to Shore to Halifax. So he owned like a triangle. He divided his farm. Robert Bowling, he owned the land to the east, which he began dividing in 1809. Okay, the homes on North Sycamore, they were the biggest in the city. These homes average. Oh, okay. Keep on going. Yeah, we'll go back to that. Okay, the homes on South Sycamore average anywhere between 6,500 to 8,000 square feet. Okay, this was the home of W.L. Zimmer. His family owned a tobacco company. This was where Mary Tab Bowling married the son of Robert E. Lee. Okay, that home was known as the Lawn back then. And this was the printing company that W.L. Zimmern owned. He made the tobacco labels for the Zimmern Tobacco Company. Okay, which one is that? Oh, that is on Harrison Street. So that is the Stith Bowling House. That's on Harrison Street. Next to that, I don't have a photograph of that, but directly next to that house was the house where Martin Luther King Jr. stayed when he did his visits to Petersburg. Okay. Okay. Okay, let's go. Okay. Backward. Let's go to the water treatment. Okay, this area was also the area where the reservoir was. So in the 1850s, until the wastewater treatment plant was built in the 1950s, this is where all the water from Petersburg came from. Okay. On Mars Street. Yep. Keep on going forward. So on Mars, this area was not just a residential, it was also very industrial. In the early 1900s, on Mars Street, there was a machine shop. On the corner of Liberty and Halifax Street, there was a tobacco stemmery. There was also a bakery and a furniture maker. Okay. Okay, going forward, let's get caught up again.
I don't think we haven't been here yet.
Okay, we're just on Sycamore Street.
Yeah. Keep going
Okay,
forward.
yeah, keep on going forward.
That's an old library.
Okay. Okay. Oh, this is the McKinney Library. The McKinney Library in March of 1960 was the site of the first library sit-in in America.
What if we go to Walnut Hill?
Okay, and current day. Okay. In 1958, there was a hospital built on Sycamore Street. A lot of the big homes were torn down to make room for medical buildings. Luckily, at that time period was also when the Petersburg Historic Foundation came into play and stopped the demolition of many of those houses. Okay, Walnut Hill is our last historic district. Oh, I got it screwed up all over the place. Okay, Walnut Hill started out as a plantation and a farmland. It was actually not part of Petersburg. It was part of Dinwiddie and Prince George County. On June 9th of 1864, Union troops attempted to enter Petersburg from the north. That would be the current day intersection of Crater and Walnut Boulevard. They were met by a group of young boys and old men, and they were able to fend off the attack long enough for defenses to be put up in the city. During the Civil War, oh baby, I'm way ahead of you. Okay, during the Civil War, this area was full of forts and field hospitals. The current day Butterworth Shopping Center was the site of Fort Sedgwick. Across from that, where Walnut Hill Elementary currently is, was Confederate Fort Mahone. That area, fighting between those two forts was so intense that it was called the Half a Mile of Hell. This was also the site of the Battle of April 2nd, which was part of the breakthrough. That day, there were 1,272 people killed.
How many do you want to go?
Oh my goodness. Okay, that's the Old Men and Young Boy marker.
And where is that located?
That is on Crater Road. That is on Crater Road, right next to the shopping center. Yeah, by the Dollar Tree. Okay, that was the Fort Sedgwick. Okay, on April the 3rd of 1864, Abe Lincoln came here. The devastation that he saw at this battle, at this site, caused him to visibly shed tears. He left from there, he went to the Wallace House, and that is where they started discussing leniency for the South after the end of the war. Okay, after the war, a tourist trap was built there, and the tourist trap was there for almost 100 years. Go back 3 screens. Okay, in the 19-teens, the Walnut Hill Corporation was formed. And this is the creation of Walnut Hill. If you'd like to see a better picture of that, it's right behind you on the table over there. Walnut Hill has become the premier residential area in Petersburg, and it has been for over 100 years now.
And you want to go forward, huh?
And now we want to keep on going forward. Okay, so Walnut Hill, it has a variety of homes. This one is very visible on Sycamore Street. And while we have some of the most affluent members of society who originally moved there, okay, we also have this is the Doughboy. The Doughboy was constructed in the 1920s as an homage to our troops who went and fought in the First World War. Okay, throughout the 1940s and 50s and 60s, we had the mid-century style homes were built there. And again, this has become nothing but a premier neighborhood. It's one of the few areas that has not gone downhill. Okay. Yep, just the Boy Scouts. Okay, and in 1968, the Walnut Hill Shopping Center was built. And I think there are very few people that remember the mall, but that is where Food Lion now is.
Everybody in here.
Okay, so I want to thank you guys for joining. Does anybody have any questions, concerns, stories to tell? I see you back there.
Yes, you didn't mention, how did Petersburg get its name?
Petersburg got its name during the 1700s. It was part of the Byrd survey, so Byrd came from England. When he surveyed the town, at that point it was known as Peters Point, or it was being called Peters Point because of the trading company. So Petersburg, we had a fort. In the 1745, Fort Henry was built. Fort Henry was a frontier boundary. It was one of the few places where the Native Americans could freely trade with the settlers. It was also one of the last points of civilization going west. So if you needed to go west, you had to check in at the fort. If you were coming from the west, you had to check in at the fort. On the outskirts of the fort, a man named Peter Jones built a trading company. And that trading company was where the Indians and the settlers were able to freely trade. When Richard Byrd came and did his survey, Peters Point, or the trading company, was a vantage point, and that is how Petersburg got its name. It was originally called Peters Point, and then in the 1700s, after Richard Byrd did the survey, it was called Petersburg with a GH.
Is there any history on Richard Stewart from Pocahontas Island?
There is.
Lived there for years and was seldom called the mayor of Pocahontas Island?
He was the honorary mayor of Pocahontas Island, and he had the Black History Museum. And sadly, after his passing, the museum was closed. To the best of my knowledge, it's owned by his descendants. His family owns it. but I don't know what the plans are for it in the future. I can honestly say that hasn't gone anywhere.
I mean, he was just such a
He was.
person. I've worked with him for many years, and I knew a lot about Pocahontas Island, but I didn't know if the city of Petersburg was going to do anything to recognize him or, keep him in the historical records.
He is definitely in the historical records, but as far as with his collection and his contributions, at this point in time, I'm really unsure of what the plans are for going forward. I would certainly hope that there's something positive because he was such an asset to the community. And really, if it wasn't for Mr. Stewart, the entire history of Pocahontas Island would have been lost.
You mentioned the baseball field that has been moved from Petersburg to Colonial Heights. But is there any record of the Negro League actually playing on that field at any point?
In all honesty, I've heard word of mouth, but actually seeing in black and white, I did see reference in a book about the history of baseball, or about the history of baseball in Petersburg. So there is a reference, but it is definitely a point that needs further research.
Do you remember the name of the jockey who was from Petersburg, the black jockey who's from Petersburg, and there was a racetrack in the area, and he used to ride horses, for the owner of the horse on that racetrack? Do you remember anything about that?
No.
So when you go to Pocahontas Island, just as you're coming in,
Okay.
there is one of the metal placards on the side of the road that gives you the information on the racetrack as well as the jockey. And I understand that he was a very famous jockey, but I don't remember his name right offhand.
That makes two of us.
Yeah, and as it relates to the Black History Museum on Pocahontas Island, I have actually talked to a couple of the powers that be to become a curator of that museum because I would love to do that. And they were supposed to connect me with Richard Stewart's daughter because Richard Stewart's daughter is the person that actually owns that museum now and all the property because he had two homes on that property. But it hasn't gone anywhere, but it's something that I've always been interested in.
I've spoken to her.
Okay.
I spoke to her a few years ago. She's very nice.
Okay.
She lives across the street.
I was going to say, if you have her numbers, across the street from where you live?
No, across the street from So Mr. Stewart's museum was right there, across 1, 2, like 3 houses, catty corner.
I'll have to try to track her down again. I would love to do that.
Maybe go knocking on the doors.
Yeah.
I'll support you. Hey, hi, Francis.
I want to ask you one question. I counted, you mentioned the Civil War 9 times. Okay, I'll speak up louder.
Laura, hold on, Francis. Laura, if you'll just repeat the question.
Oh, sure. Okay, Civil War.
Microphone, though.
I heard you mention Civil War 9 times, but did you know that the genteel people of Petersburg do not refer to it by that name? Oh. They call it the recent unpleasantness.
Oh, okay. Well, the recent unpleasantness. Oh, sure. The Golden Ball Tavern. It was across the street from where from Peter Jones Trading Company. So that would be the corner of Grove Avenue and Market. Okay, the Golden Ball Tavern was where George Washington had visited. So after the American Revolution, George Washington came to town. George Washington spent the night in the Golden Ball Tavern, which was a meeting house, and it also functioned as one of our early courthouses. There was a banquet for Mr. Washington. He left the next day, and Golden Ball Tavern was used pretty much as just a meeting house, and later became a store. I think it was torn down in the 1960s 60s or 70s. So that's about all I know about the Golden Ball, is that it was a meeting house and that George Washington slept there. And there were some plans recently to put a marker or something to commemorate his visit. I don't know what the status is on that project, though.
You had mentioned a bed and breakfast at some point during your speech, and that's in Petersburg. Could you tell us more about that and where it is?
Okay, so, there's a few of them. So on Hinton Street, there is the mansion that was known as Strawberry Hill. It wasn't as part of our presentation, but it is in my book. Strawberry Hill is currently a bed and breakfast. In Poplar Lawn Historic District, there's a bed and breakfast which was Ragland Manor, which was owned by Reuben Ragland. He was...
Still open?
Yes.
Because they were holding weddings there. Okay.
Oh yes, it's definitely still open. She's had to get the fence replaced again. But that was owned by Reuben Ragland. He was one of the wealthiest people in Petersburg. He built that house along with 3 adjacent properties that almost matched it for his 3 daughters. He was the president of the Petersburg Bank. He was also a commodity trader. Okay, anybody else? Oh, hi. Oh.
Joseph Cotton was born in Petersburg.
Yeah. Oh, yes. I'm sorry. He was the house we were just mentioning was one of his family homes. Yes. He went to school at Petersburg High School. So the current day Governor's School is where he went to school. He was a member of the football team.
Wow. And he is buried in cemetery.
Yes, he's buried in Blandford Cemetery. He's in the back section of it. And he's in a very modest grave. It just says the name Cotton on it. Nothing to indicate his fame.
Blair Underwood is also from Petersburg.
He is. Blair Underwood lived on Johnson Road. I believe that his parents still live there. He went to Petersburg High School as well, and was taught by, or was inspired by, the dramatic arts teacher to pursue his acting career.
His father was a banker, wasn't he?
To the best of my knowledge, yes. And one of his family members owned Cotton Auto Sales. So they were car dealers, or one of his, I think it was his brother was the car dealer. And Cotton Auto Sales was where the North Market Street Coffee currently is. Yeah, they won Restoration of the Year last year.
It wasn't one of Joseph Cotton's house, J.T. Morris Funeral Home in Petersburg on Adams Street. I think wasn't that his house? They renovated it when they moved there.
I've heard that as well.
And that was their property right along there anyway.
Yes, that definitely was their property, and I've heard that prior to the restoration there was a smaller home there.
Yeah, maybe.
There is a bed and breakfast in the Grove Avenue area of Petersburg, and it's absolutely beautiful.
Grove?
I do not remember the name.
Is it called the John Baird House?
I don't know. I don't remember the name of it, but it is simply breathtaking. It really is.
There are 2 beautiful, beautiful historic homes on Grove Avenue. One is a brick number, it's very imposing, and the other one is the John Baird House, and that was another 1700s home. I bet that that's it, because I know it was on the market a year or 2 ago.
Really?
Oh, yes.
Bring your books with you today?
Oh, yes, of course I did. Of course, you know it.
Is there a lot of restoration still going on in Petersburg?
Oh, yes, yes, definitely. Petersburg is on a huge upspring.
Along High Street, and what's the other street that goes parallel to that?
Okay, let me see. There's High Street, Grove Avenue, High Street, Old Street, Low Street. Yeah, there's a lot going on down there too. I'll be honest with you. Right now, there's so many opportunities for funding for home restoration, and historic homes are still semi-affordable. So there is It is, and that's one of the primary functions of the Historic Petersburg Foundation, is to help align people who've bought these historic homes with the grants and the federal funding that they may find, or the sources that they may be able to find to apply for and receive those funds.
A few years ago, the Petersburg Historical Association, or whatever it was called, they were doing all kinds of different tours and things of Petersburg. They did one about different movie and TV shows that were, it was really interesting. Are they still doing those?
They do periodically do tours. What I always say for Historic Petersburg Foundation is check their website. If anybody wants a private tour, reach out to me. I'll give you a tour. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Well, I want to thank everybody for coming today. I hope that you enjoyed. Oh,
Thank you, Laurel. Laurel, how much are your books?
$24.99.
Okay. What a wealth of knowledge she is. Thank you, Laurel.
You are welcome. Thank you, everybody.
Laurel